Long before modern psychology attempted to define what it means to live well, ancient philosophers had already mapped out a framework so precise, so deeply rooted in human nature, that it has survived thousands of years without losing a single ounce of its relevance. The four cardinal virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, were not invented as abstract ideals meant to be admired from a distance. They were designed as practical tools, meant to be lived, practiced, and refined through daily experience. The word cardinal itself comes from the Latin cardo, meaning hinge. Everything else in a virtuous life hinges on these four. Remove one, and the entire structure begins to wobble. These virtues were explored deeply by Plato in his dialogues, systematized by Aristotle in his ethical writings, adopted by the Stoics, and later embraced by early Christian thinkers like St. Thomas Aquinas. Across cultures, across centuries, and across wildly different worldviews, these four qualities kept appearing as the essential pillars of a good human life. That kind of consistency is not a coincidence. It is a signal worth paying attention to. Understanding these virtues is not merely an academic exercise. It is an invitation to examine your own character, to identify where you are strong and where you are lacking, and to begin the deliberate work of becoming the kind of person who can navigate life with clarity, fairness, strength, and balance. Wisdom is the first and arguably the most foundational of the four virtues, because without it, the other three cannot function properly. The ancient Greeks called it phronesis, which is often translated as practical wisdom or prudence. This is not wisdom in the sense of accumulating facts or memorizing philosophical texts. It is the ability to perceive a situation accurately, to understand what truly matters, and to choose the right course of action in any given moment. Wisdom is the internal compass that tells you not just what you could do, but what you should do. Plato described wisdom as the virtue of the rational part of the soul. It is the capacity to see through illusion, to resist the pull of immediate desire, and to act in alignment with what is genuinely good rather than what merely feels good in the moment. A wise person does not react impulsively. They pause, assess, and respond with intention. In practical terms, wisdom shows up in the quality of your decisions. It is present when you choose a difficult conversation over comfortable silence because you know the relationship needs honesty. It is present when you recognize that a short-term sacrifice will lead to a long-term gain. It is present when you can look at a complex situation and identify the most important variable rather than getting lost in the noise. Developing wisdom requires experience, but experience alone is not enough. You must also be willing to reflect on your experiences honestly, to learn from your mistakes without defensiveness, and to remain genuinely open to perspectives that challenge your existing beliefs. Wisdom grows slowly, but its effects compound over a lifetime. Justice is the virtue that governs how we relate to others. In the ancient world, it was not simply about legal systems or punishment. It was about giving each person what they are genuinely due, no more, no less. Aristotle described justice as the complete virtue because it is the only one that is inherently directed outward toward other people. Every other virtue can, in theory, be practiced in isolation. Justice, by definition, requires a relationship. At its core, justice is about fairness, honesty, and integrity in all of your dealings with other human beings. It means keeping your promises, acknowledging the contributions of others, treating people with equal dignity regardless of their status, and refusing to take more than your fair share. It also means having the courage to speak up when you witness something wrong, even when staying silent would be more convenient. One of the most powerful aspects of justice as a virtue is that it extends inward as well. A just person is honest with themselves. They do not rationalize their failures or inflate their successes. They hold themselves to the same standard they would apply to others. This internal dimension of justice is what makes it so demanding. It is easy to demand fairness from the world. It is far harder to consistently offer it. In a world that often rewards self-interest and strategic dishonesty, choosing justice is a radical act. It requires a deep commitment to something larger than personal gain, a belief that how you treat others matters intrinsically, not just instrumentally. Courage is perhaps the most misunderstood of the four virtues. Popular culture tends to reduce it to physical bravery, the soldier charging into battle, the firefighter running into a burning building. And while those are certainly expressions of courage, the ancient philosophers understood it in a far broader and more nuanced way. Aristotle defined courage as the mean between cowardice and recklessness. A courageous person is not someone who feels no fear. They are someone who feels fear and acts rightly anyway. The absence of fear is not courage. It is either ignorance or recklessness. True courage requires that you fully understand the risk, feel the weight of it, and choose to move forward because the action is right and necessary. Courage is what allows the other virtues to function in the real world. You might have the wisdom to know what is right, the sense of justice to understand what is fair, and the temperance to keep your desires in check. But without courage, none of that translates into action. Courage is the bridge between knowing and doing. It shows up in the willingness to have difficult conversations, to stand by your convictions when they are unpopular, to pursue meaningful goals despite the very real possibility of failure, and to be honest, even when dishonesty would be easier and safer. Developing courage is not about eliminating fear. It is about building a relationship with fear that does not allow it to become the final word. Every time you act despite fear, you expand your capacity for courage. Every time you retreat from it unnecessarily, you shrink it. Temperance is the virtue of self-regulation, and in many ways, it is the most quietly powerful of the four. The ancient Greeks called it sophrosyn, which carries connotations of soundness of mind, self-control, and moderation. Temperance is the ability to govern your appetites, emotions, and impulses so that they serve your higher goals rather than undermine them. It is not about denying yourself pleasure or living an austere, joyless existence. It is about ensuring that your desires remain in their proper place, present, but not dominant. A temperate person can enjoy food without being controlled by it, can feel anger without being consumed by it, and can experience success without becoming arrogant. They have developed an internal order that allows them to engage fully with life without being thrown off course by its extremes. In the modern world, temperance is under constant assault. Every digital platform, every advertisement, every notification is engineered to exploit your impulses and override your better judgment. The ability to pause before reacting, to choose depth over distraction, and to delay gratification in service of something meaningful has never been more difficult or more valuable. What makes temperance particularly interesting is its relationship to freedom. Most people assume that self-restraint limits freedom, but the opposite is true. When your impulses control you, you are not free. You are a passenger in your own life. Temperance gives you the ability to choose deliberately, to act from your values rather than your cravings, and to build a life that reflects who you actually want to be rather than who your weakest moments would make you. Together, these four virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, form a complete architecture for human excellence. They are not separate qualities to be pursued independently. They are deeply interconnected, each one strengthening and enabling the others. Wisdom without courage remains theoretical. Courage without temperance becomes recklessness. Justice without wisdom becomes rigid. Temperance without purpose becomes mere restraint. The goal is integration, a life in which all four are present, balanced, and continuously refined through conscious practice.